She's not dead. She's not dead. She's not dead. Those 3 words exploded through the cemetery like a thunderclap on a silent morning. My 10-year-old daughter Brielle's voice cut through the crowd of mourners, all dressed in black, all standing around what was supposed to be my final resting place. I can still feel that moment, the collective gasp that rippled through the gathering, the way every single person froze, as if someone had hit pause on reality itself. Because in that instant, my little girl did something no adult in that cemetery had the courage to do. She told the truth that would save my life. But let me back up. Let me tell you how a successful tech CEO ended up lying in a casket at her own funeral, very much alive, listening to her daughter's desperate screams pierce through the morning air. Before I go any further, I need you to do something for me right now. If you're watching this video, please hit that subscribe button. We pour our hearts into every single story we create, and your subscription helps us keep bringing you these powerful narratives. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Smash that like button if you're already hooked, and drop a comment below telling me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single comment, and I want to know where you are in the world. Trust me when I tell you this. You will not want to miss a single moment of what I'm about to share with you. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My name is Vivienne Castellano, and 6 years ago, I had what most people would call the American dream. I was the founder and CEO of Castellano Digital Defense, a cybersecurity firm I built from absolutely nothing. I'm talking about starting in a cram studio apartment in Albuquerque, with nothing but a second-hand laptop, a mountain of student debt, and a dream that kept me awake at night. I didn't come from money, not even close. I grew up in the South Valley neighborhood of Albuquerque, the only daughter of Rosalind Castellano, a woman who worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. My mother cleaned office buildings at night, waited tables during lunch shifts, and did alterations from our tiny apartment on weekends. I watched her fingers bleed from pushing needles through thick fabric. I watched her fall asleep, sitting up, because she was too exhausted to make it to bed. But you know what my mother never lost? Her dignity, her kindness, her belief that every single person on this earth deserves respect. It doesn't matter if someone empties trash cans or runs a corporation. Everyone's got a family to feed. Everyone's got a heart that can break. You treat people right, and that kindness comes back to you when you need it most. I watched her live those words every single day. She knew the names of every janitor in every building she cleaned. She asked about their children, remembered their birthdays, helped them practice English when they were learning. She treated the CEOs whose offices she cleaned with the exact same respect she showed the security guards working the night shift. That lesson stuck to my bones. It became part of my DNA. When I finally graduated from the University of New Mexico with a degree in computer science, I was drowning in $60,000 of student debt. But I had skills that companies desperately needed. I spent 3 years working for a major tech corporation in Santa Fe, learning everything I could about cybersecurity, network protection, and digital threat assessment. And then I took the biggest risk of my life. At 26 years old, I quit my stable job with benefits and a decent salary, and I started Castellano Digital Defense in that tiny studio apartment I mentioned. For the first year, I lived on ramen noodles and black coffee. I worked 18-hour days, sometimes 20, when deadlines loomed. I taught myself to code better, faster, smarter than anyone else in the market. My mother thought I was crazy. "You had a good job, mija," she'd say, worry creasing her forehead. "Why risk everything?" "Because I want to build something, Mama," I told her. "Something that can't be taken away. Something that can give us the life you always worked for, but never got to live." It took 3 years of grinding, networking, pitching, and refusing to give up. But slowly, Steadily, Castellano Digital Defense grew. I landed my first major corporate client, a mid-sized financial services company that needed their systems secured. Then another. Then another. By the time I turned 32, I had an office suite in downtown Albuquerque, 17 employees, and contracts with some of the biggest corporations in the Southwest. My company was protecting financial institutions, healthcare systems, and government contractors from cyber threats. We were good. No, we were the best. My mother got to retire at 58. I bought her a house in the Northeast Heights with a garden where she could grow the chili peppers she loved. Watching her sit on that porch without worrying about money for the first time in her life, that made every sleepless night worth it. But success taught me something crucial, something my mother had been showing me all along. It taught me that how you treat people, all people, matters more than how much money you accumulate. When my company grew, I made it my mission to know every single employee's name. I attended their kids' quinceañeras and graduations. I sent flowers when someone got sick. I paid for emergency car repairs when employees were struggling. Not because I had to, not because it was good business practice. Because my mother taught me that everyone matters. The junior programmer and the senior director both have families, dreams, bills to pay. Both deserve respect, kindness, and someone who sees them as human beings, not just resources. That decision, to treat every person with genuine respect and kindness, would later become the reason I'm alive today to tell you this story. Remember that. It becomes important later. I was 33 years old, recently divorced from my college sweetheart, and honestly, I wasn't looking for love. I was focused on my business, on being a good mother to my daughter Brielle, who was 8 years old at the time. I was focused on expansion plans, on landing bigger contracts, on building something that would outlast me. Love wasn't even on my radar. And then I met Kieran Ashford at a cybersecurity conference in Phoenix. Listen closely to this next part, because this is where everything started to go wrong, even though I didn't know it yet. This is where the predator first appeared, wearing a smile that could disarm even the most cautious woman. The conference was one of those massive industry events in Phoenix where everyone's networking and pretending they're more important than they actually are. I just finished my panel on ransomware threats and was heading to the hotel bar, exhausted and ready for wine. That's when Kieran Ashford walked into my life. He was standing at the bar, tall, dark hair with silver at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first car. When I approached to order, he turned and smiled. "You're Vivienne Castellano," he said. "I caught your presentation. That analysis on multi-vector attacks was brilliant." Most men at these conferences either ignored me or talked over me. But Kieran seemed genuinely interested in my work. "Thank you," I said. "And you are?" "Kieran Ashford, venture capitalist out of Denver, specializing in tech security startups." He extended his hand. "I've been following your company's growth for a year. What you've built is impressive." We talked for 3 hours that night. Not small talk, real conversation about technology, business strategy, the future of cybersecurity. Kieran was intelligent, articulate, and he asked questions that showed he understood the technical aspects. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked about being a woman in tech, about the constant battle to be taken seriously. "Can I be honest?" he said near the end of the night, his blue eyes holding mine. "I came here hoping to meet you. Not for business. I wanted to meet the woman who built something this significant from nothing. That kind of determination is rare." That should have been my first warning sign. The too perfect approach. The exactly right things to say. But in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt since my divorce. Hope, connection, possibility. We exchanged numbers. He texted before I even left Phoenix the next morning. We started dating 2 weeks later. Kieran flew down from Denver every weekend, or I'd drive up to see him. He was everything I thought a partner should be. Attentive, romantic, supportive of my career. He sent flowers to my office with notes that made me smile. He surprised me with weekend trips to Santa Fe and Taos. And he was wonderful with Brielle. My daughter was 8, still dealing with her father and I splitting up. She was cautious around new people, especially men, but Kieran won her over slowly, patiently. He'd bring her books about space, ask about her school projects, play board games without checking his phone every 5 minutes. I like Kieran, Mama, Brielle told me one night. He's nice. He listens when I talk. That meant everything. If Brielle approved, if she felt safe around him, then maybe this could work. But there was one person who wasn't convinced. Paloma Ruiz had been with me since the beginning of Castellano Digital Defense. My first hire, originally an office manager when it was just us in a converted warehouse space. As the company grew, Paloma became my executive assistant, my right hand, my trusted advisor. She knew me better than almost anyone. 6 months into my relationship with Kieran, Paloma closed my office door, something she only did for serious conversations. Boss, we need to talk about Kieran. I looked up from my contract review. What about him? Something doesn't feel right. Paloma crossed her arms. I can't explain it, but my instincts are screaming. There's something off. I felt immediately defensive. He's been wonderful to me and Brielle. What exactly concerns you? The way he asks about the business, questions about company finances, your assets, valuation. She paused. It feels like he's gathering information, not just being interested. Paloma, he's a venture capitalist. Of course he asks about business. It's more than that. She leaned forward. Last week when he was here, I saw him photographing documents on your desk when you left the room. Financial projections, client lists. When I walked in, he acted like he was just looking at his phone. My stomach tightened, but I pushed the feeling away. Maybe you misunderstood what you saw. Boss, please. Paloma's voice carried genuine worry. Just promise me something. Don't mix your personal and business finances. Don't give him access to company accounts. Keep things separate. Please. I wanted to argue, to defend Kieran, to tell her she was being paranoid. But Paloma had never steered me wrong. Her instincts had saved the company more than once. Fine, I said. I promise. Business and personal stay separate. Thank you. She moved toward the door, then turned back. I hope I'm wrong about him. I really do. Because you deserve someone who loves you for you, not for what you've built. I dismissed her concerns that day, convinced myself she was just being overprotective, that she couldn't accept me moving on and being happy. God, I was such a fool. Kieran proposed 11 months after we met. We were in Sedona for the weekend, watching the sunset paint the red rocks in shades of orange and gold. He got down on one knee with a ring that must have cost a small fortune. A platinum band with a diamond that caught the fading light like captured fire. Vivienne Castellano, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You're the strongest, most brilliant woman I've ever met. I want to spend the rest of my life supporting your dreams and building a future with you and Brielle. Will you marry me? I said yes. Of course I said yes. I was 34 years old, successful in my career, and I'd found a man who seemed to love me and my daughter, a man who made me laugh, who challenged me intellectually, who made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore in this constant battle to build and maintain and grow. We got married 4 months later at the Albuquerque Country Club. 200 guests, mostly business associates and employees from my company. My mother cried during the ceremony, happy tears streaming down her face as she watched me in my designer wedding dress. Kieran cried too when I walked down the aisle, and I thought those tears meant he was overwhelmed with love. Now, I know they were tears of victory. He'd just secured access to an $8 million fortune. The first year of marriage seemed perfect. Kieran sold his condo in Denver and moved into my house in the foothills, a beautiful Adobe-style home with views of the Sandia Mountains. He said he'd manage his investment portfolio remotely while supporting my business growth. Brielle seemed happy, calling him Dad within 6 months. I was working long hours expanding the company, and Kieran played the devoted husband, always there with dinner ready, always asking about my day. But then subtle changes started happening. Small things at first. "You're working too hard, Viv," he'd say when I brought my laptop to bed. "You have department heads for a reason. You should delegate more, enjoy life a little." Or, "Do you really need to fly to Dallas for that client meeting? Can't your VP of operations handle it? You're spreading yourself too thin." I brushed off these comments as concern for my well-being. My loving husband worried I was overworking myself. How sweet, right? Then came the financial conversations. We'd been married about 14 months when Kieran brought up life insurance over dinner. Brielle was at a sleepover, so it was just us with wine and takeout from our favorite Italian place. "Viv, we need to talk about protecting our family," he said, refilling my glass. "If something happened to either of us, we need to make sure Brielle's taken care of. I think we should take out substantial life insurance policies on each other." It seemed reasonable, responsible, even. We were a married couple with a child to protect and significant assets to manage. "How much are you thinking?" I asked. "Well, given your company's valuation and our combined assets, I'd suggest $5 million on each of us. That way, if anything happens, the surviving spouse can maintain our lifestyle and ensure Brielle's education is covered." He made it sound so logical, so practical. $5 million seems high, I said, feeling uncomfortable with the number. "Not really, when you consider what you've built. Castellano Digital Defense is worth at least $12 million if you sold it today. The house is worth $800,000. Your investment portfolio, retirement accounts, everything together. We're talking significant wealth that needs protection." He'd already done the math, already calculated exactly what I was worth. "Okay," I agreed, "if you think that's what we need." 2 weeks later, Kieran presented me with the insurance documents. I was in the middle of a major contract negotiation with a healthcare network, stressed and exhausted, barely sleeping. I signed the papers between conference calls, trusting my husband to handle the details. I never saw his policy. He claimed he'd signed identical documents, that we were both protected equally. That was lie number 1 of many. Around the same time, Kieran suggested updating my will. "You built this company before we married," he explained one evening. "Your will probably doesn't reflect our current situation. You should update it to protect Brielle and ensure everything's structured properly for tax purposes." Again, it seemed reasonable. I'd been meaning to update my estate planning anyway. "I know a fantastic attorney," Kieran offered. "Griffin Morehouse. He specializes in high net worth estate planning. Handles all my investment clients. I can set up a meeting." I should have insisted on using my own lawyer. I should have had Paloma review everything. I should have listened to that small voice in my head saying this felt rushed, pressured, wrong. But I was tired. So incredibly tired from running a company, being a mother, trying to be a good wife. So I let Kieran handle it. I met with Griffin Morehouse in his downtown office, signed the documents he prepared, barely reading through the legal language, because I was between client calls and my mind was on a security breach one of our clients had just experienced. This ensures Brielle is protected and your business assets are properly allocated, Griffin assured me, sliding papers across his expensive desk. Standard estate planning for someone in your position. I signed. God help me. I signed without reading every word, without having independent counsel review it, without doing any of the due diligence I would have demanded for a business contract worth a fraction of what I was signing away. I was so catastrophically wrong. The poisoning started about 2 weeks after I signed the updated will. I didn't recognize it as poisoning at first. How could I? I thought I was just stressed, run down, working too hard, like Kieran kept telling me. It began with exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. Then came the nausea, the dizziness, the headaches that felt like someone was driving nails into my skull. My hands started trembling during meetings. I'd forget simple things, client names, meeting times, passwords I'd used for years. Viv, you need to see a doctor, Paloma insisted after I forgot an important investor call. This isn't normal stress. Something's wrong. But Kieran discouraged doctor visits. You just need rest, baby, he'd say, bringing me another cup of chamomile tea, the one he prepared special every night. Let me take care of you. You've been taking care of everyone else for so long. It's my turn. I drank that tea every single night, never questioned it, never suspected that my loving husband was slowly poisoning me with arsenic mixed into the honey he stirred so carefully. The symptoms got worse. I started having memory gaps, confusion, moments where I couldn't remember where I was or what I'd been doing. My employees noticed. Clients noticed. Paloma was terrified, insisting something was seriously wrong. And then, 3 weeks ago, everything came crashing down. Paloma had been quietly investigating Kieran for months, ever since that conversation in my office. She'd hired a private investigator without telling me, using her own money, driven by instincts she couldn't ignore. And what she discovered made her blood run cold. Kieran Ashford wasn't a venture capitalist. He was a con artist with a history of targeting successful women. His real name was Kieran Maldonado, and 4 years ago, his previous wife, a wealthy real estate developer in Colorado, had died mysteriously. Fell down the stairs in their home. He'd collected $3 million in life insurance and was never prosecuted due to lack of evidence. Paloma also got copies of the will I'd signed, the real will, not the summary Griffin had shown me, and what she found destroyed her. The will left everything to Kieran. The company, the house, the investment accounts, everything. Brielle got a trust fund of only $100,000, a pittance compared to the $8 million estate. Everything else went to the man I'd been married to for less than 2 years. Paloma came to my house on a Tuesday afternoon when she knew Kieran was supposedly in Santa Fe for meetings. She brought everything: the background check, the previous wife's death certificate, the real will documents, analysis of my symptoms that matched arsenic poisoning. "Boss, you need to see this now," she said, spreading papers across my kitchen table, her hands shaking. "Your husband is trying to kill you." I stared at the documents, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. The room spun, my stomach lurched. This couldn't be real. This had to be some terrible mistake. "Vivienne, listen to me." Paloma gripped my shoulders. "He's poisoning you. These symptoms, they match arsenic poisoning perfectly. And he has 5 million reasons to want you dead, plus your entire company." Brielle walked into the kitchen then, home early from school. "Mama, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" I hadn't even realized I was crying. I quickly gathered the papers, tried to compose myself. "Nothing, baby. Paloma and I are just discussing some work stuff. Can you go to your room for a little while?" Brielle looked between us. Her 10-year-old eyes, too perceptive, seeing more than I wanted her to see. Is it about Kieran? My blood went cold. What do you mean, sweetheart? I don't like how he looks at you sometimes, she said quietly. When he thinks nobody's watching. He looks mean. Those words from my 10-year-old daughter hit me like a physical blow. Children see things adults miss. They haven't learned to explain away red flags or ignore their instincts for the sake of keeping peace. Go to your room, Brielle, I said gently. Lock your door. Don't come out until I come get you. She nodded and ran upstairs. I heard her door close, the lock click. Paloma and I spent the next hour planning. We'd go to the police in the morning with everything. The background check, the will, my medical symptoms. We'd get a blood test to confirm arsenic poisoning. We'd get protection for me and Brielle. We'd make sure Kieran couldn't hurt us. But we needed to act like everything was normal until morning. Just one more night. We couldn't let Kieran suspect we knew. Paloma left around 6. Kieran came home at 8, carrying takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, smiling like he hadn't been systematically poisoning me for months. How are you feeling, baby? He asked, kissing my forehead. You look tired. Just a long day, I managed, my skin crawling at his touch. I think I'll go to bed early. Good idea. I'll bring you some tea. No. The word came out too sharp, too fast. Kieran's eyes narrowed slightly. I mean, I'm fine. I don't need anything tonight. He studied me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker across his face. Suspicion. Calculation. Something cold that made my blood freeze. Okay, he said slowly. If you're sure. I went upstairs, checked on Brielle, who was reading in bed, then locked myself in my office. I needed to call my lawyer, my accountant, anyone who could help me understand the full extent of what Kieran had done. That's when I heard his voice drifting up from downstairs. He was on the phone, his tone completely different from the loving husband act he performed an hour earlier. I crept to the top of the stairs, my heart hammering. She knows, Kieran was saying, his voice flat and cold. I don't know how much, but Paloma was here today with documents. They were crying. No, I can't wait a few more weeks. It has to be tonight. The stairs worked before. It'll work again. Yes, I'm sure. I'll call you after it's done. The stairs worked before. His previous wife, the real estate developer who fell down the stairs. He was going to kill me tonight. Right now. In my own home, with my daughter sleeping upstairs. I backed away from the staircase, my mind racing. I needed to get Brielle and run. Get to the car, get anywhere but here. I turned to go to her room, and Kieran was standing at the top of the stairs behind me. I don't know how he moved so quietly, so quickly, but there he was, blocking my path to Brielle's room, his face a mask of cold fury I'd never seen before. How much did she tell you? His voice was eerily calm. Kieran, I don't know what. Don't. He stepped closer. Don't insult my intelligence. Paloma showed you everything, didn't she? The background check, the will. Probably figured out the poisoning too. My hand moved toward my phone in my pocket. Looking for this? He held up my phone. When had he taken it? You really should be more careful, Viv. Leaving your phone on the kitchen counter like that. Kieran, please, we can work this out. Whatever money you need. I don't need your money. He smiled, and it was the cruelest thing I'd ever seen. I want all of it. Everything you built, everything you are, and the only way I get that is if you're dead. Brielle will be traumatized but fine. Tragic accident. Stepmom fell down the stairs, just like I tried to warn everyone she would, with how hard she works, how tired she is, how sick she's been. He recited it like he'd practiced. I'll be the devoted stepfather who raises her, manages her trust fund, and of course, runs Castellano Digital Defense until she comes of age. He took another step forward. I backed toward the stairs. You won't get away with this, I said, my voice shaking. Paloma knows. The police will know. Paloma has theories and suspicions. No proof. And once you're gone, who's going to listen to a paranoid assistant over a grieving husband? Behind his shoulder, I saw Brielle's door crack open. Her small face appeared in the gap, her eyes wide with terror. Don't do this, I whispered, trying to keep Kieran's attention on me, away from my daughter. Please. I really am sorry, Viv. He didn't sound sorry at all. You were actually pretty good company. But business is business. He lunged. I screamed and tried to dodge, but Kieran was faster. His hands connected with my shoulders, shoving hard. I felt myself falling backward, the world tilting sickeningly. My feet left the floor. The stairs rushed up to meet me. The tumble felt like it lasted forever and ended in a single heartbeat. My body slammed against the marble steps, once, twice, 3 times. Pain exploded through my skull, my ribs, my spine. I heard Brielle screaming my name. Heard Kieran's footsteps descending slowly, calmly, checking his work. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was my daughter's terrified face at the top of the stairs, and Kieran's cold smile as he pulled out his phone to call 911. Then, nothing. I woke up 2 days later in Presbyterian Hospital's ICU. At least I thought I woke up. Everything was fuzzy, distant, like watching the world through thick glass. I could hear voices, but couldn't respond. Could feel sensations, but couldn't move. Trapped inside my own body. Traumatic brain injury, the doctors said. Severe concussion, fractured skull, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding. Medically induced coma to reduce brain swelling. Critical condition. Kieran played the devastated husband perfectly. I could hear him through my fog, his voice breaking as he spoke to doctors and nurses. I just found her at the bottom of the stairs. She'd been so tired, so sick lately. I should have insisted she see a doctor. This is my fault. The police came. Through my haze, I heard them interviewing Kieran. Terrible accident, he said, his voice heavy with fake grief. She'd been overworking herself, barely sleeping. I warned her she was pushing too hard. They interviewed Brielle too. I heard my daughter's small, terrified voice. Daddy pushed. Kieran interrupted smoothly. She means she saw her mama fall. It was traumatic for her. She's confused. After the police left, I heard Kieran's voice change completely as he spoke to Brielle in the hallway. Listen to me very carefully. Your mother fell down the stairs. That's what happened. If you tell anyone differently, if you say I pushed her, I'll make sure you never see your mother again. Do you understand? Accidents can happen to little girls too. My daughter's terrified silence broke my heart, but there was one person who knew the truth, one person who wouldn't stay silent. Paloma had watched Kieran's performance with growing horror and certainty. The day after my fall, she contacted Dr. Nadia Rezvani, the neurologist overseeing my care. In a private conference room, Paloma laid out everything. The background check, the previous wife's death, the fraudulent will, the arsenic poisoning theory. Test her blood. Paloma demanded. Please, if I'm wrong, I'll accept that. But if I'm right, he's going to finish what he started. Rezvani ordered comprehensive toxicology screening. The results came back 48 hours later. Elevated arsenic levels, consistent with chronic poisoning over several months. He's been killing her, slowly, Dr. Rezvani said, her face pale. And now that she survived the fall, he'll try again. They brought in Detective Marcus Chen for an APD. showed him everything Paloma had compiled. The pattern was undeniable. Kieran had done this before, and he was doing it again. "We need to catch him in the act," Detective Chen said. "If we arrest him now based on circumstantial evidence, a good lawyer will tear it apart. We need video proof of him attempting murder." Dr. Rizvani proposed a plan that made everyone in the room go silent. "We stage her death. Replace her IV medication with sedatives that will mimic death. No heartbeat on monitors. No brain activity. We document everything. Then we wait for him to come finish the job." "You want to use her as bait?" Paloma's voice shook with fury. "I want to save her life and put him in prison where he belongs," Dr. Rizvani replied. "This might be our only chance." They briefed Brielle on the plan. My brave, terrified 10-year-old daughter listened as they explained they were going to pretend Mama had died, but she was really alive. They needed her to be quiet, to act sad, to wait for the right moment. "Will Mama really be okay?" Brielle whispered. "Yes, sweetheart," Paloma promised, holding her close. "But we need you to be the bravest girl in the world. Can you do that?" Brielle nodded. "I can be brave for Mama." 3 days later, they executed the plan. Dr. Rizvani switched my IV to powerful sedatives. My monitors flatlined. Alarms screamed through the ICU. Nurses rushed in for show, then slowly backed away, shaking their heads. Kieran was called to the hospital. He arrived within 20 minutes, his face arranged in appropriate grief. "I'm so sorry," Dr. Rizvani told him. "She passed away 10 minutes ago. Would you like some time alone with her?" "Yes," Kieran said, his voice perfectly measured with false grief. "I need to say goodbye." Hidden cameras were recording everything. Detective Chen watched from the nurse's station, his hand near his weapon. Paloma stood with Brielle in a family waiting room, holding my daughter tight as she trembled. Kieran entered my room and closed the door. For a long moment, he just stood there, staring at what he thought was my corpse. Then his face changed. The mask of grief melted away, replaced by something cold and satisfied. He pulled a syringe from his jacket pocket. Potassium chloride, the same method he'd researched online, the same method that would mimic a heart attack in a recently deceased patient. Insurance against anyone questioning the cause of death. "Finally," he whispered, approaching my bedside. "Do you know how exhausting it's been pretending to love you? Playing devoted husband to a woman who never shut up about her company, her achievements, her precious self-made success." He uncapped the syringe. "Your money is worth it, though. 8 million, plus the company's value. Not bad for 2 years of work." He inserted the needle into my IV port, except the IV had been disconnected. He was injecting harmless saline into a tube that went nowhere. "Thanks for everything, Vivienne." He leaned close to my ear. "Your death is going to make me a very rich man." He kissed my forehead. Actually kissed it, like a husband saying final goodbye to his wife. Then he straightened, disposed of the syringe in the sharps container, arranged his face back into grief, and left the room. Detective Chen arrested him in the hallway. 30 seconds later. "Kieran Ashford, you're under arrest for attempted murder." Kieran's face went white. "What? My wife just died." "Your wife is alive," Detective Chen said, snapping handcuffs on his wrists. "And we have you on camera attempting to murder her corpse. Which is still attempted murder, by the way, since you believed she was in a coma, not deceased. This is insane. I want my lawyer." "You're going to need one." Detective Chen smiled grimly. "We also have evidence of chronic arsenic poisoning, fraud, and conspiracy. And we're reopening the investigation into your previous wife's death in Colorado." Kieran's face transformed into pure rage. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can. We have everything." They kept up the death charade for 3 more days, long enough to secure all evidence, to coordinate with Colorado authorities, to build an absolutely airtight case. They planned a funeral, a real ceremony with a real casket and real mourners who had no idea I was actually alive inside that box, sedated but breathing through hidden tubes. The cemetery was packed. Employees from Castellano Digital Defense, clients, business associates, my mother, who Paloma had quietly briefed on the plan. 150 people dressed in black gathered around a casket that held a living woman. Kieran gave a eulogy that would have won awards for its performance. My beautiful wife. Taken too soon. She was my everything, my heart, my soul. Vivienne built an empire through pure determination, and she loved with that same fierce intensity. I promised to honor her memory by protecting what she built and caring for her daughter as my own. Lies. Every single word was a calculated lie. The priest began final prayers. That was the signal. Brielle stood up from her seat next to Paloma. Her small voice cut through the morning air. "She's not dead." People turned, confused murmurs rippling through the crowd. Brielle's voice grew stronger. "She's not dead." She started walking toward the casket, and now she was shouting, "She's not dead." Kieran lunged toward her. "Brielle, sweetheart, you're upset." "Don't touch me," Brielle screamed, jerking away from his reaching hands. "You pushed her. You killed her. You told me not to tell. But I'm telling. You pushed Mama down the stairs, and you're a liar and a murderer." The crowd erupted. Gasps, shouts, people standing up in shock. Kieran's face went from false concern to genuine panic in a heartbeat. "This child is traumatized," he said desperately. "She's confused, grieving." "I'm not confused." Brielle was crying now, but her voice never wavered. "You pushed Mama, and you poisoned her tea, and you told Mama you never loved her, that you only loved her money. I heard you. I saw you." Paloma stepped forward. "It's all true. We have proof." Detective Chen and 3 uniformed officers emerged from the crowd. "Mr. Ashford, you're already under arrest, but now you're also charged with witness intimidation of a minor." "Open the casket," Dr. Rizvani called out, stepping forward. "Vivienne Castellano is alive." Funeral home attendants rushed forward. They opened the casket, and there I was, opening my eyes on cue, taking my first full breath without sedation in 3 days. The cemetery exploded with noise, screams, shouts, complete chaos. People were crying, shouting questions, trying to understand what they were witnessing. But I only had eyes for one person. "Brielle," I whispered, my voice hoarse from days of sedation. My daughter ran to the casket. Dr. Rizvani helped me sit up slowly as Brielle crashed into my arms, sobbing. "Mama, you're alive. You're really alive." "I'm alive, baby." I held her as tightly as my broken ribs would allow. "You were so brave, so incredibly brave." Behind us, officers were dragging Kieran away. He was screaming now, all composure gone. "This is entrapment. You can't do this. I'll sue every single one of you." "Save it for your lawyer," Detective Chen said flatly. I looked over Brielle's head to meet Kieran's eyes one final time. He stared at me with pure hatred, the mask completely gone, and I saw the monster he'd always been underneath the charm. "You lose," I said simply. They took him away in handcuffs, while the crowd of mourners stood in stunned silence, trying to process that they'd just witnessed a funeral where the deceased had come back to life. The trial happened 4 months later. Brielle's testimony was devastating. A 10-year-old girl recounting in heartbreaking detail how her stepfather had pushed her mother down the stairs, then threatened her into silence. The jury was in tears. Paloma testified about her investigation, about the evidence she'd compiled, about watching Kieran's mask slip. Dr. Rizvani explained the arsenic poisoning, the staged death, the hospital room video that showed Kieran injecting what he believed was a lethal substance into my IV. Detective Chen presented evidence linking Kieran to his previous wife's death in Colorado. Same pattern, same methods, same motive. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, fraud, witness intimidation, conspiracy. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison with no possibility of parole. Mr. Maldonado, the judge said, using his real name, stripping away even his fake identity. You are a predator who targets successful women, manipulates them, and murders them for financial gain. You nearly succeeded twice. You will spend the next quarter century behind bars thinking about the lives you destroyed. Kieran showed no emotion, just stared straight ahead with empty eyes. That was 2 years ago. Today, Brielle is 12 years old. She's confident, strong, and volunteers at a children's advocacy center, helping other kids find the courage to tell the truth about abuse. I want to help kids who are scared like I was, she told me. I want them to know that speaking up can save lives. I couldn't be more proud of her if I tried. Castellano Digital Defense is thriving. The company's stronger than ever, and I've implemented comprehensive policies for employees experiencing domestic violence. Resources, legal assistance, paid leave, whatever they need. I've made it my mission to create a workplace where people feel protected and valued. Paloma is now my chief operating officer, and honestly, she runs half the company. She's also Brielle's godmother and one of my closest friends. Her instincts saved my life, and I'll never forget that. My mother? She's healthy and happy, spending her days in her garden, attending Brielle's school events, living the peaceful retirement she always deserved. As for me, I'm running my company, raising my daughter, and using my experience to help other women recognize the warning signs of financial predators and abusers. I started the Castellano Foundation that provides legal support, financial assistance, and resources to domestic violence survivors. We've helped over 200 women and children escape dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. Now, let me share the lessons I learned from this nightmare. Pay attention to these, because they might save your life someday. Lesson 1. Read before you sign. I signed a life insurance policy and a will without reading every word, without having independent counsel review them. I trusted my husband to handle details while I focused on work. That trust nearly killed me. Never ever sign legal documents without understanding exactly what they say. Hire your own lawyer. Take your time. If someone pressures you to sign quickly, that's a massive red flag. Strong. Lesson 2. Paloma saved my life because we had a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine care. I treated her like family from day one, valued her opinions, respected her instincts. If I treated her like she was beneath me, if I'd dismissed her concerns or been condescending, she might not have fought so hard to protect me. The people around you, your employees, your assistants, anyone who works with you, they see things. They notice patterns. If you treat them well, they might be the ones who save you when you need it most. Lesson 3. Trust but verify. I trusted Kieran completely and blindly. I ignored red flags, dismissed warnings from people who loved me, and convinced myself that love meant trusting without question. That's wrong. Trust is earned and should be maintained with open eyes. Verify what people tell you. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to seem suspicious if something feels off. Your instincts exist for a reason. Lesson 4. Teach children to speak up. Brielle saved my life because she was brave enough to tell the truth. First to Paloma, then to everyone at that funeral. I'd always taught her that her voice mattered, that telling the truth was important even when it was terrifying. If I'd raised her to be silent, to always obey adults without question, to never challenge authority, she might not have had the courage to do what she did. Teach your children that they have the right and the responsibility to speak up about things that are wrong. Lesson 5. Don't ignore abuse warning signs. There were signs before Kieran pushed me down those stairs. The subtle, controlling comments about my work schedule. The questions that felt invasive about finances. The way he isolated me from making independent, legal decisions. Abuse rarely starts with physical violence. It starts with small things that slowly escalate, controlling behavior, manipulation, undermining your judgment. If someone in your life makes you feel small, controlled, or afraid, that's abuse. Don't wait for it to become physical. Get help immediately. Lesson 6. You're stronger than you think. I survived being pushed down marble stairs, a traumatic brain injury, months of arsenic poisoning, and nearly being murdered in a hospital bed. But more than that, I survived discovering my entire marriage was a lie. That the man I loved never loved me back. That I'd been targeted and used and manipulated. And I came through it. Brielle and I rebuilt our lives. We're stronger now than we were before. If you're going through something terrible right now, please believe me. You can survive it. You are so much stronger than you think you are. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. If you were in Paloma's position, what would you have done? Would you have believed a 10-year-old child telling you that her stepfather tried to murder her mother? Would you have had the courage to investigate, to gather evidence, to risk your job and potentially your safety to protect someone? Or would you have convinced yourself it wasn't your place to interfere? Would you have dismissed a child's testimony as imagination or trauma? I want you to comment below with your honest answer. Would you have been like Paloma, or would you have stayed silent? There's no judgment here. I just want people to really consider what they would do in a crisis situation. And here's another question. Who do you think is the real hero of this story? Is it Brielle, the 10-year-old who had the courage to speak up twice? Once to Paloma, and once at that funeral in front of 150 people. Or is it Paloma, the adult who believed a child and took action when it would have been easier to stay out of it? Or is it Dr. Rizvani, who risked her medical license on an unconventional plan? Or was it all of them together? Comment below with your thoughts. I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to hear from you. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think, if it taught you something valuable, I need you to do a few things for me. First, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have over 70 stories on this channel, covering every genre you can imagine: justice, betrayal, redemption, family drama, revenge, survival stories like mine. Every story is crafted to make you feel something, to teach you something, to stay with you long after you finish watching. Second, smash that like button. It genuinely helps more people find these stories. The more people who watch, the more lives we might be able to touch and change. Someone out there might be in a situation similar to mine, and this video might be what gives them the courage to get help. Third, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe you know someone in a relationship that concerns you. Maybe you know someone who's too trusting with legal documents. Maybe you know someone who needs to understand that speaking up can save lives. Share this story with them. And finally, if you're someone who's currently in a dangerous situation, please reach out for help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Talk to a trusted friend or family member. Contact a lawyer. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't convince yourself it'll get better on its own. It won't. You deserve safety, respect, and a life free from fear. Be like Isabella in the original story you might have heard, or like Paloma in mine. Be brave, speak up, take action. You might save someone's life. Remember, read before you sign, be kind to everyone, trust but verify. Teach children to speak up, don't ignore abuse. And know that you're stronger than you think. Stay safe, everyone. Never stop fighting for justice. This is Vivienne Castellano, signing off. I'll see you in the next story. Bye.